All right, the April stats are in for everywhere, and I'm going to be breaking down today in this video the stats for everywhere. All right, we're kicking it off with the Fraser Valley, and we're going to look at the HPI. So the HPI says the prices went down about $2,000. I usually like to check the median prices as well, which apparently went down $35,000. What's the difference between these? Well, the HPI is better for showing a trend because it tends to smooth things out. Like if you look at this chart, it smooths things out. Whereas median is more volatile. It's not as accurate, but I think it's a better gauge of what is happening right now, right? So maybe prices didn't go down $35,000, but maybe they went down like, 20 grand or 15 grand. Whereas the HPI is telling us prices went down $2,000, which is probably not what happened at all. They probably went down a little bit more, and that's why the median price is dipping 35K here, right? So first off, that is the prices on aggregate. And then if we look at inventory, wow, 8,600 for it. How is it 8,600 now? It was like 9,100 3 days ago. It was 8,700 when I shot that other video 2 days ago. Now it's 8,600. Like, am I losing my mind here? Anyways, 8,600. I guess they go and they revised it down, right? Just like like all the data we get on the federal side, right? Sales at 972. Sales to actives is 11%. What I'm going to do today now, I'm going to jump into the cities and some sub areas because we kind of already covered the Fraser Valley as a whole. But if you missed it, that's kind of what's going on. So on the HPI, Abbotsford went down about $6,000. Median sales price went down $70,000. Now we know Abbotsford didn't tank $70,000 in a month. So that's what I mean by median isn't very accurate. But if you look at the HPI, which also went down, and then you look at median, which also went down, it's safe to say prices went down. The question is, how much did they actually go down? Probably not $70,000 and probably more than $6,000, right? Getting into Abbotsford detached, prices went down on the HPI about $13,000, which is a big drop for the HPI. That's a big drop. But then on median, they somehow went up. They went up like $50,000. See, that's confusing. I would say prices definitely went down for Abbotsford detached. I mean, like just in my neighborhood, there's like 5 houses listed on my street. They've all been sitting there. Nothing's really moving. Couple price reductions. They've been on market for 2-3 months already like that. So I'm going to say prices went down for sure. How much? That's obviously a question. When we look at detached sales ratios, you're only at 10% for Abbotsford. So Abbotsford detached sitting in a buyer's market, and sales are obviously very pitiful in comparison to, look at every year, right? This is the spring market, boom. Spring market, boom. Spring market, boom. And then this is our spring market right now. Meh. Right? Inventory is still not that high in comparison to where it's been in the past. But the problem is there's 584 homes for sale and 57 sales, right? That's how you get the 10% sales to actives ratio, by the way. It's 57 is 10% of 580 roughly, right? So there's not a lot of inventory, but it's just demand is super weak, right? And that's why you're having homes sitting on the market, price reductions, and likely falling prices. Now let's get into apartments in Abbotsford. Prices went down, what is that? Like $6,000 on HPI. But median went down $4,000. So hard to say, but prices definitely went down. Sales to actives ratio for apartments in Abbotsford, 13%. Not amazing, but still balanced. And inventory is getting up towards all-time highs, but still not all-time highs for Abbotsford apartments. Now, Abbotsford townhomes actually went down like $700 or something like that, $800 only. On HPI, but on the median, they went up $5,000. So I don't really know how to make sense of that, but I don't know. To me, it feels like townhomes are holding up really, really well. Like, what's the sales to actives on a townhome in Abbotsford? 13%, down from 21% a few months ago. So, I tend to lean towards prices probably went down again, but it's hard to read the data at the moment, right? Let's see the inventory. up at 244 townhomes now. That is almost, that might be all-time highs. No, just below all-time highs of June 2019 for townhomes in Abbotsford, but most likely going to be at all-time highs by the end of summer, I would say, or the middle of summer for townhomes in Abbotsford. Moving on to Langley, my favorite area to cover right now. Look at detached on the HPI is actually continuing to go up month over month, up $15,000 this month. Median sales price, however, down $50,000. Again, I think home prices went down, but it's hard to see in the data at the moment. Sales to actives only 11%. You have inventory at 770. Again, nowhere close to all-time highs, but making its way up there. And that means sales are going to be about 80-something, 85 sales for the month for detached in Langley. Now, onto apartments. Prices stayed pretty much flat on the HPI, and they went up on the median, right? Apartments in Langley really haven't been coming down very much from what I've seen. Like a nice one bedroom is still like close to 500K. A nice two bedroom is still over 600,000. Like prices haven't moved too much in Langley for newer product, right? I'm starting to see some older product that's been price reduced quite a bit, right? Inventory almost at all-time highs right now for condos in Langley. And then your sales to active, 16%, which is balanced, down from 23% last month, which would have been a seller's market. Now on to townhomes. You have the HPI moving down a little bit, $4,000. You have the median moving down about $10,000 for townhomes. And the sales to actives for a townhome in Langley is still in a good seller's market, 25%. And you guys, I've been saying this for so long, like a townhome, nothing has held up better in the Fraser Valley than a townhome in Langley. It's just been a juggernaut of a market, right? Let's look at the inventory. Inventory, however, is just below all-time highs, 308 for sale today versus 338 in May of 2014. So we'll have to see what happens there. I want to quickly check on Willoughby Heights really quick. I want to check the sales ratios for Willoughby Heights. Condos at 15% balanced. Townhomes at 26%. So a Willoughby Heights townhome is at 26% sales to actives ratio, which is a good seller's market. And we have detached. Let's check out the detached at 11%, down from 20% last month. All right, we're going to get into, actually, let's do Surrey, City of Surrey combined. And let's see what happened with detached to start. So detached down a couple $1,000 on the HPI. Median sales price up somehow. Let's check out the sales to actives for Surrey. 7%. So you have a 7% chance to sell your detached home in Surrey right now, which is probably the worst I've seen for a detached. Actually, no, White Rock was the worst because White Rock was at 4% last month. 2,100 on the market. Like if you look at any detached chart, like inventory is still at like historical averages for the most part. Like it's nothing crazy going on in the detached market. But you look at sales again, look how terrible that is. Awful. Let's look at apartments here now. Apartments went down $4,000 to check out the median sales price. Somehow went up a little bit. I don't believe that for a second not in Surrey anyways. Sales to actives at 13%, been trending up for the last few months. And I think the reason why that is because prices have come down so much in Surrey that, again, it's starting to pull demand from other areas, right? Like 2 months ago, I had no buyers for Surrey Central. Right now, I have 4 or 5 people that want to buy a condo in Surrey Central because you can get decent product in like the low 400,000s now, right? Which wasn't a thing like 2 or 3 months ago, right? Inventory for apartments in City of Surrey, wow. 1,300 units. This is far above all-time highs at this point. This is like 20% above all-time highs. That's crazy. 1,300 now for apartments. All right, let's get into townhomes, City of Surrey combined. Townhomes, basically flat. Let's check out the median price. Median price dipped a little bit, $20,000. Sales to actives for a townhome in Surrey is down about 2%, so still balanced. Let's look at the inventory. So inventory is getting very close to all-time highs. So townhome inventory across the board is close to all-time highs, but not quite there. Whereas apartment inventory is basically already at all-time highs. Now let's check on my favorite area to check on. This one seems to be the most interesting right now. Wally apartments specifically. Prices, $457,000. Still above the December 20. You know what's funny? So in late 2022, it would have been like summer 2022, on a podcast, I said the bottom of prices would be November 2022. And I said that over and over again on my TikTok. So now like almost every video I post on TikTok, people are like, this dude called the bottom 3 years ago, right? And I'm like, yeah, but that bottom is still intact, right? Like you can't say that I'm wrong yet, right? And they'll be like, oh, well, you can say that the bottom hasn't been passed if you cherry pick data. I'm like, what data am I? This is an aggregate chart of the Fraser Valley. This is literally all product types in all areas of the Fraser Valley. We're still far above the November 2022 high. Not saying that we can't go down and past it, but I mean, had you bought November 2022, you would have had like, going on 3.5 or 3 years to be able to sell that property, get out of the market and make a bunch of money, right? Not to pat myself on the back, but we still haven't eclipsed past this 2022 low of 455,000, even in Surrey Central apartments, which is the worst market, probably the worst sub area and the worst product type in all of the Fraser Valley, and we're still not past that low. And I think this is like probably the worst chart in all of the Fraser Valley that you could even look at. What's the sales to actives? So sales to actives actually uptick for April. Again, why is that? Why is everything else going down and Wally went up a little bit? Well, again, I think it's because of affordability, because prices have come down here so much that it makes too much sense now for a first-time home buyer to buy here, as opposed to like literally wood frame is more expensive like almost anywhere else than brand new concrete in Surrey Central, right? So interesting. I think White Rock detached was a very interesting area that I looked into. So prices went up on the HPI, but there's probably like almost no sales here. Yeah, 4 sales. That's why prices went up. Sales to actives ratio is now 3%, down from 4%. How much inventory is in White Rock? So there's 162 homes for sale in White Rock. And 4 sales. 4 of them sold last month. So actually, you know what? This would be like the worst like sub area. But even the prices here, like the prices still aren't below that 2022 low here. Did it go past it? It went past it at one point, but the price is apparently higher now. But again, it's such a small sample size of homes, like 4 sales. Like it's so easy to skew the data, but it's like next to impossible to sell your house right now in White Rock by the numbers. 4 sales, 160 something homes on the market. So what's happening right now? Okay, so we had the election, and then I have been hearing anecdotally that there has been some renewed activity after the election. Like literally the next day, I had one of my buddies who's selling his apartment in West Van or downtown or something like that. He's like, we've had like no showings for 45 days. And then the next day after the election, we had 2 showings booked in one day, right? I haven't seen it on my own personal listings, but I've had a bunch of buyers come back, and even buyers that were interested like 2-3 months ago are sending me properties. They want to go see some properties now, right? And I'm hearing from other realtors in my market that they're starting to get showings on all their listings again. So anecdotally, activity has increased from the election finally being done with, and we're past that. Prices are coming down, but it feels like the market is, and it could just be because we're like in the thick of the spring market now, but the market feels more stable now. It feels like negotiations are a lot tighter. The market feels healthier than it did 2 months ago when we were at peak fear and the greed fear index was at a 4 or a 3 or whatever the hell it was at, right? But yeah, there is your update of the stats for the Fraser Valley. If you want to chat with me about buying or selling here in the Fraser Valley, there's a link in my description. Otherwise, I appreciate you for watching. I'm that Agent Kelly. I'm making moves to move you. Peace.